Welcome everyone. I'm Sarah Stevick. I am the founder of Teaching a Path to L&D. This is workshop 2 of our resume series, and we're going to be focusing on key achievements. I'm joined tonight by the lovely and fabulous Laura Hoyer, and Laura is here out of the goodness of her heart. She is actually a career coach that helps teachers make this transition. She does offer resume services as well as portfolio services. I'll let her talk a little bit about that. And we're so grateful to have her here to help answer questions and to help with our breakout rooms later on. We do want to say that for teaching a path to L&D, we neither encourage nor discourage the purchase of any type of transitional resources. We just encourage that you do your research and make decisions for what's best for you. So with that, I'm going to give Laura a second to introduce herself. Go ahead, Miss Laura.
Just a second. Okay.
Well, you can have 2.
Thank you. So I'm Laura Hoyer. I'm a former teacher myself. I am the founder and career coach of The Right Fit Career Coaching, and my dog is coming in to say hi. There isn't a ghost in my house, I promise. But I am also a certified professional resume writer, a certified digital career strategist. So I'm here to help you guys as much as possible because I've been there and I would have really benefited from some help. So that's why I'm here.
So if you feel like you need additional support into what Laura, or excuse us, into besides what we're offering here, Laura does offer more in-depth career coaching and more in-depth resume writing services. We also offer free 30-minute resume feedback sessions. It's not resume crafting sessions for our website. Wow, the stutter is real today. Oh my goodness. Huh, I guess I just gotta wet my whistle. That's not okay, there we go. If you can't tell already, I am kind of, I just like to have fun with it. A little bit about me. I taught for 9 years. I made this transition last February. I left my teaching position and I had no idea what I was going to get into next. And I was just looking around. I stumbled across instructional design. Anybody else relate to that? Give me like some thumbs up or hands. Yeah, it's so like that, right? Because you're like, I'm a teacher. What can I do? I can teach. And then it's like, what else can I do? So many things, right? But so when I started really getting after jobs and trying to apply, I revamped my resume and started blanket applying. I applied to about 100 jobs and I got like 10 rejection letters and that was it. And I'm like, okay, well, what's going on here? Well, what was going on is that I did not know what an ATS system was. I did not have a resume that said really anything other than I'm a teacher, but I could do anything else. So please hire me. Anybody else's resume kind of look like that right now? It's okay. It's okay. We all have to start somewhere. All right. At least you have a resume. Winning. So we're going to talk about how to really revamp those key achievements to make yourself more sellable and also get past that ATS system a little bit more today. Okay. So Erin, who is our lovely director of marketing and social media, she's going to be dropping some links in the chat. These are going to be your handy dandy toolkits for this evening. If you notice me looking off to the side, it's not because I have an aversion to looking at you all in your lovely faces. That's actually me talking to you because all of my people are on my second monitor, and then I have my actual PowerPoint, or excuse me, slide deck. That's what us old school PowerPoint users call slide decks. They're all PowerPoints, right? Yeah, no, it's okay. So yeah, that's why if I look over there, that's because I'm looking at you. And if I look over here, it's because I'm looking at the stuff. But Erin is our lovely director of marketing and social media. She's helping produce this session today. And so she put in some links for you. That first link is going to be your power phrases for resume writing from Illinois State University. I did not make this resource, but I have to say, Wow. Okay, this resource is amazing. It says it's like a 41-minute read or something on LinkedIn, which looks really intimidating, but it's really just a whole bunch of sentence starters and verbs, and it categorizes it for you based on the soft skill that it's speaking to. So it's a really great way to, if you're kind of like me and you stumble across your words sometimes, it's a really great way to get your stuff going. The next thing I put up there is a work in progress glossary, where we talk about some words that are really taboo to put on your resume if you're going for an instructional design position, okay, and what words to replace them with. And then that last link, that's going to be the resume achievement. So last week we had a template that I sent out to you guys for a plain text resume. If you want to use your own plain text resume, that's cool too. Hopefully you all brought your key achievements with you. Now, what are key achievements? This is basically what you have done in your job. It's what you would put under, I worked for this school and this is what I did there, okay? That's what we're talking about when we're saying key achievements. So that's what you'll need for the session today. We will have 2 breakout sections. But before we get into that, let's talk about some things that we should really avoid when we are trying to sell ourselves as an instructional designer. Because like I said in my last webinar, mindset is everything. You have to go into this saying, I am an instructional designer. Yes, I have a teaching background, but I am an instructional designer, and here's how I'm going to prove it. Because if you go in there and you say, hey, you know, I'm a teacher and I have all these great teaching skills and I think I could plug them into whatever you're going to hire me for, that sounds great to us, not so great to that hiring manager, right? So the first thing that we should avoid is the actual word teacher. The only reason I say to avoid the word teacher is because of the immediate bias and the immediate perception that accompanies teacher. Typically, when you hear somebody say, I'm a teacher, immediately pops into your head little kids, and there's recess, and there's crayons and art projects, even though a lot, you know, we have high school teachers and middle school teachers. So we really want to use either educator, instructor, facilitator / curriculum developer / instructional designer. We just want to avoid the word teacher. Laura, would you agree with that?
Yes and no. I would say that if the rest of your resume is really powerful, having teacher as your title isn't going to deter anybody from interviewing you. But that being said, you also don't want to get too far away from your official title, because if they call your school, for example, and ask about what it's like working with you, and they say, I'm calling about Laura Hoyer, your instructional designer, your school's going to say who? So yes, you could definitely use instructor, you can use educator, all of those terms definitely make sense. Just be careful but with labeling yourself as an instructional designer when your title was something slightly different.
And that's for the work experience.
Absolutely, yes.
Yes. So the overall arcing title for your resume itself, you can put instructional designer. That's completely fine. But in the work experience, yes, I would definitely agree with that, Laura. Thank you.
Mhm.
The other word I would really caution against is the word students. Because again, when we hear the word students, we think youth, we think young. Is this an accurate perception? No. Is this what a large majority of people tend to think? Unfortunately, yes. Okay. So instead of students, you can have learners, participants. What are some others? Throw some at me, spitball. Those are my main 2. User. That's a good one. Or yeah, I think that. Trainees. If you're talking about when you are training other teachers in a professional development, absolutely. Yeah, you can say that. That's great. Audience, very good. Or target audience, target population, target learners. I love that word, target. Oh, but anyway, very good. Participants, very nice. Yes. The other thing that state standards don't mean anything in the corporate world. They really, what state standards are, those are business goals and objectives, because that's what they have set upon you, what they want you to work towards and to move towards. So I always advocate for replacing state standards really with going towards, stakeholder goals and objectives, or business goals and objectives. So another thing to avoid, and this is hard, okay, because as a teacher, like we all know, we've done so many great things, right? And we were like, I gotta figure out how to cram it all on this 1 to 2 to 3 page resume that we talked about last time. Really try and keep it to 2, but you can go to 3 if everything is super incredibly relevant. But that's not to say that you want it to be so burdened down that it's like you can't read it, okay? Because you're gonna lose people, and you actually also lose what you're trying to say in the sentence. Like, you get halfway through your sentence, you're trying to say something, and you're like, oh, I'll add this, and I'll add that, and I'll add this and that, and then all of a sudden you have this book that makes absolutely no sense. So less than 3 skill smash ups, okay? You can add, I would really try and stick with 1 to 2, but definitely no more than 3. Age of learner. So some like to put elementary teacher, or I taught grades 3 through 5. That's not really relevant to what you are trying to show in your skill set. And it also might be something that a hiring manager or recruiter might hyper focus on, because they are looking for somebody to train adults. They're looking for somebody who knows how to create instructional materials for adults. So if you're saying that you spent the last 20 years as a kindergarten teacher, they're going to think, well, they only know how to teach kindergartners, which isn't true, but that's what they're going to think. Okay. This is huge. Teacher acronyms. No, thank you. Leave those in the alphabet, okay? Because when you put them in your resume and your key achievements, the recruiter and the hiring manager, they're going to read them and they're going to be like, what's that? What is STEAM? What is that? What is a PLC? Like all of these acronyms that we're all like, oh yes, I am in a professional learning community. Oh yes, I know. Like hiring managers and recruiters are going to be like, I think they misspelled something on their resume. Yeah, you don't want that part. The other thing with acronyms, you always want to spell out the word, and then in parentheses, put the acronym. This is very important, because the ATS system that filters your resume will more than likely have one or the other. And if you put both, you're covered either way. Okay, so it's really, really important. And that way, just in case you get a recruiter who is maybe filling in for recruiting for the L&D position, they normally recruit for tech positions over here, but they're like, oh, I just needed a recruiter for this one spot. And that does happen. They might not know much about learning and development, So you really want to make it as transparent as possible. And last but not least, left field skills. It's really awesome that you were the sponsor of the Lego Club, okay? But focus on this, the sponsorship and the management, the project management skill aspect of it versus Lego Club sponsor, okay? Because if they're going to see that, and they're going to stop reading and not get to the actual meat of it, which is that you're able to take project scope and go through the end-to-end management of a project, right? So Laura, do you have anything to add to that?
I think we're pretty good so far. The only thing I would kind of add on to teacher acronyms is also teacher terms. So when I when I went to leave teaching, I was really big on differentiation, and I was like, I do this a lot. I'm really good at it. But literally nobody understood what that meant. They're definitely looking for differentiation, but they don't know what terms like that mean. So I would add on to that teacher specific terminology as well.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that one up. Yes. Differentiation. I love that word. Corporate has no idea what that word means. They really don't put any weight or attachment into the teaching methodologies or philosophy of teaching. Like those are really teacher specific, even though they have those in the learning and development field, they're just called different things. So it's really important that, you know, you sit with somebody and kind of go through and make sure that you're getting all those out. Great point. Okay, so with that, we're going to go on to our first breakout room session. So now hopefully you're feeling a little bit more confident with being able to identify some of those things that we talked about. And the more you work with it, the more instructional design resumes that you reference and take a look at, the more that will become second nature to you. If I could advocate for anything this evening, it is please, please, please go out onto the web and just Google instructional design resume examples and read them and see how they form their language and what they mention, what they don't mention. So that, you know, stuff to think about. So great job. Thank you for participating in that. So now we're going to get into the meat and the potatoes, which sound delicious. All right. What key achievements should I include? So in my last webinar, I did advocate for having your work experience listed and then below that have a cumulative key achievement. Personally, this is something that I found to be very effective because I wasn't being redundant and I wasn't trying so hard to come up with new ways to say the same thing, and it just tended to work a lot better for me because all of my professional experience was teaching. Now, if you have teaching plus, so you've done other roles, then you can break it out a little bit more. But if your experience is solely teaching, that's a really great way to go. It helps streamline your resume, it gives them a great place to look, and it helps them sort the information faster when they're reviewing it. By them, I mean recruiters and hiring managers. Okay, so you should always have a bullet point about designing instructional content because it's an instructional designer. So you gotta make the content. So you always want to have that. You also want to include developing materials. These should be separate. Remember, we don't want to over smash up, right? We're not trying to make a catchy new jingle with all these different songs. So developing materials, this is going to be things that you have actually made to support the learning facilitation, right? Adult learning theory. Because you are an educator and because there is a high likelihood that they will have this preconceived notion of, oh, well, that means they work with kids, so they work mainly with kids, so they might not know how to work with adults. Go ahead, nip that in the butt right from the start by just saying, hey, I have it. Anytime that you work with adults, we're going to go ahead and call that Train the Trainer event. Well, by adults, I mean other teachers. So if you've taught another teacher during a professional development webinar, like let's say, you know, Fridays, you have your professional development day and your principal is like, hey, can you give a little blurb about how to use Google Classrooms more effectively? Guess what? You train the trainer to do that. Okay. So you want to mention adult learning theory. Before we continue on, this is so very important. Please never put anything on your resume that you cannot personally speak to or own. So if you do not know what the adult learning theory is, guess what? You have homework, because that is part of filling the knowledge gap, because there is quite a substantial knowledge gap between teaching and instructional design. So you do have to work on filling that in. So you need that on your resume. You can't leave it off. So that means you got to fill the knowledge gap. So if you don't know adult learning theory, you got homework tonight. You're welcome. Okay. Don't worry, you have a whole week to do it. And by a whole week, I really mean whatever time frame you decide, because I'm not going to give you grades, because I don't grade anymore. And it is lovely. It is my favorite thing. The next thing, you want to put project development and management. So the end-to-end production of instructor-led, virtual-led, if you're leading any virtual-led instruction now. If you've done any e-learning modules, you've created some things like that, put it on there. If you have done it, you can put it in your experience. So if you've been building e-learning modules with Articulate Storyline or Captivate or Camtasia, you can put that on your resume. If you have experience doing it, you can't say that you did it in the classroom if you haven't implemented it in the classroom, but you can say that you have made those things with those tools. Learning management systems, you definitely want to mention this. Many of you have experience with Blackboard or Canvas, Moodle. Some of you guys have worked with Moodle. I personally consider, and I did Google it to double check, and we all know the Google does not lie. Always check your resources, please, please. It does lie, okay, but that's neither here nor there. I do consider Google Classrooms a learning management tool, because you can do grading in there, you do upload content, you do manage the learner's progress. I do consider that a learning management system. If they ask you about it, you always want to be very honest. These are the ones that you have experience about. And then if you have very limited experience, you can say, well, I've practiced with these, but I know of and have researched these. You always want to do research on the things that you don't know. Needs analysis. This is essentially a pretest. If you haven't already, go on LinkedIn Learning and do the Jeff Toyster's needs analysis, and it talks you all through it. There's a couple different YouTube videos out there about needs analysis. There's lots of great free resources where you can learn about how a needs analysis goes down. I think Devlin Peck actually just put a free one out as well. And once you watch that, you'll be able to make the connections between your pretest and the needs analysis to help bridge that gap. Okay. You also want to put your course evaluation. So these are going to be your post tests and your learner surveys and how you are tracking learner progress and whatnot. Kirkpatrick's is huge in instructional design. You need to know what this is. It needs to be on your resume. And if you don't know what it is, guess what? What am I going to tell you? You got homework. Okay. So make sure that you do that. Collaborating with subject matter experts and stakeholders. Many times I hear teachers mention, well, I've never worked with a subject matter expert. I'm always the subject matter expert, right? But that's not necessarily true. How many of you guys have worked with a special ed teacher or a speech language therapist or an occupational therapist or somebody who has come in to help make your instruction stronger, like builds upon the content so that you can effectively facilitate content appropriately? The other thing, so yes, that would count your professional learning communities. If you've worked, so when I was a biology teacher, I worked with other biology teachers and they told me what they were doing and it made my content stronger. They're subject matter experts. Sometimes I needed clarification on something because my background wasn't in biology. So I worked with them to make sure my content and in my instructional materials was solid. So you have worked with subject matter experts. It is not a lie. It is okay. You can say it.
And Sarah, if you
Stakeholders.
have a second, I've got like 2 questions that I think will go really well with the key achievement slide.
Sure.
So the first one that just is like tying right into talking about SMEs. The question is, if you've built modules and micro courses, but you were the SME and not the instructional designer, but you worked with the ID, how would you state that in your resume?
You can say served as a subject matter expert in the design and creation of instructional courses. I think that would be an excellent thing to put on your resume. And, I think all of us could probably even put that on there based on the fact that we had to be a subject matter expert in it. We went to school, you have to do this, right? So we've served as a subject matter expert in teaching itself. When parents have asked, what are the best practices for helping my kiddo in their homework and this and that, we would advise them, right? That's part of being a subject matter expert in teaching. So I think it's okay to say that. That's a great point. What's the other question?
Can you just briefly explain end-to-end production?
Yes. So end-to-end production is when you start at one end and then you finish at the other. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, I'm sorry. The snark is strong in this one. I'm so sorry.
You know what? I saw Laura laughing. I saw you, Laura. You laughed.
So
I
sorry. So,
appreciate some good jokes.
oh, thank you. Yeah. Oh man, I think I'm funny, and then I laugh at my own jokes, which it's just. I really should maybe have been a dad in a former life or something, because I feel like my dad joke game is super strong. But that's okay. So end-to-end production, that's going to be like the start of the project. So somebody says, okay, we think we need to develop a training for this. You have to determine, is training appropriate? So in this case, for you, it would pretty much always be appropriate because you have to teach children's. And so you would determine, okay, well, we know that we need to teach them this. What is it that we're actually going to be teaching? And then how are we going to teach that? We got to map it all out. Here, I'm going to present my lesson plans, right? I'm going to present my lesson plans or my pacing guide to my stakeholders, administrators. They're going to say yay or nay. That's basically storyboarding. Okay. And then it's going to go into, well, now I actually have to make all this crap, right? And so you actually have to make it. And for teachers, that's a lot of that rapid prototyping, because a lot of us have to make it like the night before. And then we're like, in between first and second period, we're like, that was not good. And then second period, you see, okay, well, I'll tweak here and there. By the time you get to seventh period, you're like, I'm a pro at this. And they're like, wow, this is the best class. I just learned so much. And poor first period, they're like, I don't know what y'all go through, but it's not what we go through. So that's that rapid prototyping, right? And then that's iterative design. You're constantly changing your design to meet your learners' needs. You're making it more effective. And then you're collecting data on that. You do informal and formal assessments, right? Sometimes we survey our kids like, do y'all get it? Are you good? And they're like, you're like, perfect, moving on. And so, no, I'm just kidding. But, and then you take that data and you present it to your stakeholders. And that's where you're saying, look, I did my job because they almost passed the state's test that assesses them on knowledge that they'll never use and is unfair and biased towards all children. Okay, sorry. But that's end-to-end production. Does that help? Sorry about the snark. Laura, would you add anything to those?
Yes.
I think you're doing great. There was something else I was going to add, but I think I forgot it. But I did add in the chat. I didn't want to interrupt you, Sarah, but most people outside of education view teachers as learning and education experts. So yes, Sarah is absolutely right that you acted as a subject matter expert. That's totally fair. It's not you like stretching any stretch the imagination, that's exactly what subject matter experts do outside of education. We pull somebody in who's done it. We say, I need your help. And they give us that information. So definitely start viewing yourself that way. You are a subject matter expert on education.
I could do the emojis. Heart emoji, Laura. Heart emoji. They don't let the host do that on Zoom. Wow, wow, wow. It's probably a good thing for y'all, or else it'll just be flooded on the screen. But yeah, there it is. Thanks, Laura. So absolutely, 100% agree. Sometimes it is hard for us to get in that mentality. Again, it's a mindset shift. It takes it. I've been an instructional designer now for 8 months. I still struggle. I'm still learning. I'm still finding that and accepting that I am a subject matter expert. I do know what I'm talking about. I do, so it's okay to have those doubts, but it's not okay to have the doubt to the point where it's to your detriment. There comes a time you got to be that butterfly. Yeah. Okay. This is big. Show, don't tell. Look, if they wanted to read a job description, they would have Googled it. Okay. So you don't want to just copy and paste basically what the job description says over into your resume. And you're like, this is going to beat the ATS system. It's going to be so good. Because when you do that, after it gets past the ATS system, an actual human being looks at it and they're going to be like, this is my job description. Like, who is this person? Right? What did they actually do? So I like that, I see where you're going with that, but I'm here to tell you, unfortunately, there's no shortcut there. So, and that goes for a teaching resume as well. It goes for any resume. If you just basically say the bare minimum of what you did, that tells them absolutely nothing about what you've accomplished in your job or in your roles, right, over the years. So I always advocate for put what you did, how you did it, and then what was the value add? What was the result to that? So for example, creating instructional supplemental materials. So oftentimes we call those deliverables. And so I would say created deliverables such as slide decks, instructional videos, and job aids. Okay. I like max 3, like any more than that, we're going down a rabbit hole. Okay. How did you do it? Well, using tools such as Microsoft Office, Camtasia, Microsoft Office and Camtasia. And then what was the value add? So that, or to bring interactive and engaging scenario-based learning experiences for my students to increase the effectiveness of my programs. Okay, so what was the value add? Why do I care that you did this, right? How does that help our company? Laura, would you add anything to that?
I would add, if you can quantify anything, do it. If you can say how many students, how many courses, how many whatever, it always makes it more impactful, because you could say that you did something for learners and it turns out it was 100 people that you impacted. That's a much bigger deal than one person. And then also things like increasing anything by 5% is great, or by 100 people or anything like that. Numbers are always really helpful. There was one other thing I wanted to add.
And they pop on a resume, just to piggyback on what Laura's saying. You never want to spell out your numbers. You always want to put the actual numbers, because those are going to draw the eyes, because it's a variation of text. And so it's a natural eye attraction.
The other thing I was going to say is, when you were applying for teaching positions, right? You know that most people who go into education have a similar background, right? They all went to school for education. They worked with kids growing up, all of those things. So when you were applying for teaching positions, you had to show how you stood out, what you did differently, what makes you great. And this is the same kind of thing. You're trying to show them what makes you a great teacher. and what makes you a perfect fit for this role. So you don't want it, your resume should not be able to be copied and pasted to anybody else's resume because only you did those things.
That was a perfect value add. Thank you, Laura. Yes, yes. Couldn't have said it better myself. Okay, so let's practice a bit. Let's see how that actually translates. So from your resumes that I know you all have because you brought them to the class because we're all super duper prepared. If not, it's okay. You can make it up on the fly. Don't worry. But copy and paste your bullet point about lesson plans and creating curricula, and we'll work together to reword it. While we're waiting, Erin, are there any questions?
There have not been recently. I think we're all on the same page, but there were two that I wanted to circle back to from earlier. So the first one, just to confirm, should we put teacher in the work history job title?
You
and
can.
Sarah and Laura, you guys both touched on that
Yeah.
earlier, but just to confirm, because I know this is going to come up.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you want to stick to the truth so that when, like Laura said, when they call to confirm, they actually they know what they're talking. Oh, educator. Yeah, she did that here, or he did that here. Right. Yeah. But I would advocate for educator versus teacher personally. But if you're going to own teacher, heck yeah, you own it. But don't let it own you. If you're going to let the word teacher own you and take over your persona and how you approach things, and if it's going to make you kind of fold in on yourself, please don't use the word teacher. You've had enough of that. You don't need none of that nonsense.
I'll add to that on my personal resume, I only just recently removed my teaching experience just because I've had other experiences now. But on my resume, it did say 6th and 7th grade English language arts teacher as the job title. So it's not necessarily going to hinder your experiences all that much. But if you're even second guessing putting it there, then absolutely Sarah's right. Put educator instead. If you're putting yourself in that box, then just put educator. It's that simple.
Yep. Love it. Okay, so we got one from Dina. I think we're having some issues with the poll everywhere, and that's okay. So we have it in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and show the chat then. Okay. So let's pick this one. Developed and administered complex science curricula to over 140 high school students. So something that was done really well. Who can off the bat come off mute or drop in the chat? Well, actually don't drop in the chat because we're looking at the chat. Go ahead and come off mute if you can, please.
140.
Woo, 140. Yeah, that drew my eye. Dreaded? I don't know. Yes, that caught my eye. So great job with the 140. What's something that we could change to make this more like an instructional design?
I would definitely say to not say high school students.
What can we use instead?
Maybe learners.
Learners.
The first group of learners.
Oh, I like that. I love how you added that diverse in there because we not differentiated, or what I saw it the other day that where we talk about the different levels, scaffolding, they don't know what scaffolding means. It's really sad that but yes, great job, Robin. Developed and administered, I like that. How else can we add to this to paint the picture so that we can show them a little bit more?
Maybe to add the impact of that.
Oh, is somebody, Dino, is that you?
It was
That's
for a
Paola.
second, and then I changed my mind. I was going to say, what did this person develop? But it's the curriculum, but I'm not sure.
Or how,
Right.
what effect did it have? Is that what it needs?
Yay! Yes, we do want to have what effect did it have. So how does this benefit? What could we say?
Maybe
why
that
do we do this?
improved the performance of the learners, or
Yeah, or engagement, which increase engagement of the learners.
Yes, both of those would be great. You know, you can also say to meet business goals and objectives, right? So all of those are great. The other thing I did want to point out is complex science curricula. If you're going for a higher ed position, curriculum, that's going to be a more widely used term. But in corporate, they don't, some use it. If they use it in their job description, I'd say it's okay to use it. If they don't, I would really gear more towards courses. So how many courses did you make, right? So for example, personally, I say that each unit is a course for myself and each lesson is a micro learning or a micro training. But so for me, for my biology class, you know, I had, geez, I guess like 15 units, I think. So I could say developed and administered 15 plus courses because I also did anatomy and physiology too. So I could add all those up. Courses for over 140 targeted learners to help increase engagement and effectively address stakeholder and business objectives. And there it is. Okay, great job, guys. There's some other really great ones here. We're actually gonna, what we'll do is we'll pull these from the chat at the end and we'll make a document and we'll go ahead and leave it open to the group so you guys can practice rewording some of these. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. I know how to use Google Slides, that's fine. Okay, making materials for your classes. I feel like we did a pretty good job here about talking about this one. Drop in the chat what your new bullet point would look like. It is okay to say organizational objectives versus business. Yes. I would say too, for me, district equals company. School is my on-site, you know, or my line of business. You can kind of play with it a little bit. I would, like Laura cautioned, be wary of getting too far from it. But education is a business. Somebody is making money. It's not the teachers. I don't know who, but somebody's making money off of all these, you know, things that we do. So go ahead in the chat, drop what the new making materials would be like. So remember, we want to say what we did, how we did it. So what did we use to do it? And then what was the value add? What was the results? What did the benefit come from? Do some Jeopardy music while we wait. Laura, do you have anything to add while we're waiting?
I'm sure I do. Give me a second. In reading these, a lot of these are really great already. I think you guys are doing a really great job of quote unquote translating, if you will, your experiences into a different language altogether. I would just, to Sarah's point, the last part, to like basically why did you do it, or to what extent, or what were the results, would be my main question reading some of these. But I think overall we're at a really, really great place to start.
I would agree with that. I can tell some people have already had some exposure to reworking and revamping the resume. I put 9 at the beginning of this course. We had a question saying, on a scale from 0 to 10, how comfortable and confident are you with remaking your resume? I think I put like an 8 or a 9. And that's because resumes always change. It is a working document. It is 100% perfectly imperfect. And it's okay to put out your iterations and take a leap of faith, because you know what? If it doesn't get you the results that you want in like 2 weeks, you're like, maybe I need to go back and reword. That's okay. That's okay. Don't beat yourself up about trying to make it perfect that first go around and be like, oh, if I don't make it exactly like every other instructional designer, they're going to find out I'm a teacher. Like, trust me, I I get that. I felt that too. So I
feel that too.
yeah, I feel you. We have a couple here. Let's go ahead and go with this one. So, created deliverables such as instructional videos and job aids by using tools such as Microsoft Office and Screen-O-Matic.
Sorry, I left the cast off.
That's okay. It's always good to have it read out loud so that you can, because our brains automatically fill things in. That's something that I will highly advocate for. Even though imperfectly imperfect is awesome and you should send it out, never ever send it out without a second pair of eyes. Please, 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 because your brains, we know this, we automatically fill in what we meant to say. But that doesn't automatically mean that somebody else will fill that in, and it might, it might go in the opposite direction. So Screencast-O-Matic to improve learner engagement. I like it. Laura, any thoughts?
I would only remove one such as, but I think this is awesome. Go Raven.
Yeah, love it. Great job, guys. Okay, moving on. All right. So I want to make sure you guys have time to work within the next activity. So I want to spend that last 20 minutes of this going through that. Welcome back, everyone. I hope that was helpful. If you didn't quite get where you needed to go, feel free to connect with people that are attending this webinar. Go ahead and put in the chat, your LinkedIn information, just so you all know. I will not be sharing any of y'all's personal information. I will blur out any names. I will, trust me, I get it. So it's okay. I won't, I promise not to make y'all as sacrificial lambs. I know that was a little bit of a concern, but so go ahead and connect with people. Go ahead and do brainstorming sessions. You can do your own little breakout groups and work on resume revamping together. We did have, I'll come back to that in just a second, but we did have a question about Articulate 360 and where to go for learning. So for teaching a path to L&D, we really do advocate for knowing what's out there. We want to provide different opportunities, and we want to make sure that you know your options before deciding on any. And that it just comes down to research and making sure that you are talking to people who have experienced programs that you're interested in. For learning stuff about instructional design, if you want to go the free route, which you totally can do, that's the route I went. I didn't pay a dime to make my transition. Was it hard? Absolutely. Did I have to do the same amount of work that I probably would have had to do in a program? Absolutely. But we would be here to support you for that. But that's not to say that there aren't some really great programs out there. But if you want to go for free or a decently priced program, LinkedIn Learning, it's free for the first month. You can take as many courses as you want in that first month. And then you can add a certificate to your LinkedIn. It helps your searchability. It's fantastic. After the first month, it's $30. Actually, I guess I lied. I did invest in that month after my free trial of LinkedIn Learning. So I did spend $30. You can also, there's different programs. Laura, I think you offer a program, right?
Yep, I do. Mine's more focused on the career transition. And I was actually just typing in the chat. Another free option that I found really helpful, especially from going to beginner to intermediate 360 stuff, is the Articulate community called eLearning Heroes. They have challenges where people do like crazy stuff, and it's really inspiring to me to just check it out. But 9 times out of 10, they will tell you how they did it. So if you want to find something really cool, you can search on there and figure out how other people have done it and do it that way. YouTube was really helpful for me too. But yeah, my program is mainly for helping you with the career transition. And as an instructional designer myself, I always answer questions about it. So you can always just ask me too.
Yeah. Thank you, Laura. Yeah, I would definitely second the YouTube option. There's lots of great learning opportunities there. Also, I will say that your local libraries often offer the LinkedIn Learning platform for free. So you can access Lydia Learning for free through many of your public libraries. There's also a great list out there. If you Google 41 plus instructional design programs, it'll come up with a list. It's also on our website. You can always access that article there, and it goes over different programs. There's one at the University of Maryland that you can actually audit for free. It's a MicroMasters. And then at the end, if you really liked what you learned and you're like, I want to add this to my resume, you can pay for the certificate. So that's kind of cool. There's also things like the e-learning launch and IDLE and all of that. So again, do your research, talk to people about it. When it comes to the actual technologies though, a lot of these technologies come with a lot of support. So I know that Camtasia has a lot of tutorials. I know that Articulate puts out a lot of tutorials that come with the program. And so that is also offered during the free trial. So Articulate 360 offers a 2-month free trial. Camtasia offers a 1-month free trial. Have no idea. I think Captivate's 1 month as well. But good luck learning that in a month. Just that's
My
just,
thoughts exactly.
right? Like if you know like Adobe products, you're fine. You're golden. You go with your bad self. If you've never been in an Adobe product, run for the hills. Like, just-
Learned Captivate in my grad certificate, and woohoo, it was a beast.
I mean, your learning curve's already so steep with this transition, right? You're learning how to adopt this new persona. You're learning how to fill these knowledge gaps that you have. Like, what do these terms mean? You're learning really how to navigate the professional landscape in a way that we've never had to as educators. So LinkedIn and the ATS system and writing your resume in a corporate manner. It's very different. So your learning curve is already extreme. Please try to avoid adding unnecessary things that you have to learn, such as like if there's another option like Articulate 360, go Articulate 360 versus oh man. Anyway, but that's just my 2 cents. You do you, boo. Okay. I did want to say, connect with us. Our website is teachlearndev.org. We offer free webinars. We offer free 30-minute coaching sessions and resume lookovers and portfolio lookovers. We have a great LinkedIn group where we offer support. And we have a Twitter, what is our Twitter handle? How do we do the twits? I don't tweet.
Okay, first of all, Raven already found us on Twitter. So Raven, if I
Yeah,
give you
I'm a
a shout
stalker.
out-
Sorry, I'm a stalker. Huh?
Thank you very much. That made my day to see you. It's TPLD_path. And that's a hyperlink there in the slide docs.
And we'll send this slide doc out for everyone to have, and we'll put a link to it in the YouTube description as well, so that you guys can have these awesome links. You can also email us anytime, or connect with us on LinkedIn as far as sending us a message. That's always great. Laura does have a website that you can check out if you would like to take a further look at her coaching services and transition services. She'll drop that in the chat for you here shortly. Soon. She will put that in the chat for you. Perfect, it's there. But yeah, so that kind of takes us to the end of day 2